Hi, heroes. I'm Stanley, and welcome to the Rob and Todd Show. You know, most of the young people in this country read comics, and those who are young in heart, of course. Well, I've got a treat for all of them today. Two of the top talents in the comic book business, Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld, are here to tell everything they know about how to draw comics. It ought to take a couple of minutes, I guess. Hiya, guys.
Hey, Stan.
Todd,
how you doing, Stan?
Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld. Good
doing?
thing I practiced your names a minute before you came, right?
You know what? We're here to, give you a relief, you know?
I can use a lot of that. Now that I've done the introduction, the rest of it is up to you. I'm going to take a little nap because I've been in the studio most of the day. You guys go and elucidate and entertain and educate the public, and I'll be here when you come back.
Okay.
So
we'll maybe have a few surprises when we come back.
Okay, I'd love it.
Okay.
All right.
Go get him, guys.
See you, Stan.
Break a leg.
Okay.
So what's up first?
You take the seat. I'm going to be lazy on this one.
Okay.
Okay, now the first vid that I did, I was kind of lazy on it. I didn't really show the kids anything. You showed them more in yours, and hopefully the other guys have showed them. So what we're going to do is we should probably do something that's a little more practical. Let's get down to the basics probably and show them. I find that in the mail that a lot of kids ask the same questions, like what kind of inks do you use? How do you use brush? Do you use a pen? What size of paper? I mean, a lot of kids don't even know what kind of paper that they use. One of the big mistakes that I know that a lot of kids seem to end up doing is when they start inking, they end up using rapidographs or ballpoint pens or even felt tip pens.
Markers.
That's not really the way to start the thing. What you got to do is, unfortunately, we don't have that many brushes here with us because right now we don't use the brushes. We use Crocol pens right here. Guys like Terry Austin, Joe Rubenstein a bit,
Williams.
Yeah, Scott Williams, Jim Lee. They use what we call Hunt's mapping points. There's anything from like a number 97 tip to number 108. The numbers depend on the flexibility of each one of those pen tips, and depending on whether you press hard or you press light or whether you need a fat line or a thin line will depend basically on what tip it is. What I always tell kids to do is go out to the art stores, basically grab one of each. If you go to the Hunt's mapping point place, they've got all of them in little containers. Grab a couple of each one, take them home and play with them, and see which one is the best for you. Also, go get a couple $15, $20 brushes. Don't go get a cheap $2 brush because it's just going to split. The hairs are going to be all over the place. It's not going to do you any good. Go get some good sable tip brushes and spend the money on it and see whether you want to do brush work or you want to do pen work. To each his own. We're not going to force you one way or the other. So
you want to use some form of India ink, Higgins, Black Magic, just anything. It says India ink, waterproof. What do you use? You use a 102?
I use a 102, a Hunt's Mapping Point 102. Now, the best thing about working like as a pro is if you guys get into Marvel DC, all you viewers out there, you get them for free. So you don't even got to pay for the suckers. You just phone them up, tell them you need some supplies, and they send them to you. So there's one incentive to get in there for free, guys. You don't have to pay for supplies anymore. Okay, now, the other thing that they seem to have, I don't think most people realize that we reduce the pages. Now, an average comic book page is about this size. I mean, I don't know what the size is like, about 5 by 7 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a little bigger than that.
But our black and whites are actually done 10 by 15. So we get the stuff pre-boarded from Marvel or DC or whether we get it from a company or something like that. But our pages are actually 10 by 15, which is about the size of Rob's ego. Although Bob Harris says it's usually about the size of a double-page spread. But this is about the size you want to be drawn because we're going to end up reducing it. It also gives you enough room that you don't have to do those tiny panels so tiny. People think that those tiny panels are like this big.
Yeah, you got to work the size.
Okay, now what we're going to do here, Rob, is that we're going to try and create, let's say maybe from a blank page, we're going to go all the way in and give them what our thinking is from a blank page. Depending on what the story is, we're going to show them a little bit of coloring. We're going to show them a little bit of how we ink. We've already shown them some of the tools. What do you rough out with?
I usually use a notepad, and then when I rough out, I use markers. It's the only time I use markers is when I'm doing roughs or layouts. I usually work about this size, laying out a page, and once I figure out.
So you do thumbnail sketches first.
Yeah, I always do thumbnails, which are just a form of sketching out your story. So you get all you work out all the kinks, on this size as opposed to on your 11 by 17 paper, and then then you transfer it there, or you can just look at it and take it over there. You can use a camera, you can trace it, you know, whatever.
See, now people also have overhead projectors that they blow up the stuff. Now, some guys will draw little small things this size, thumbnail drawings like Rob does, and they throw the little guys in here, and then they'll blow them up to full size, 10 by 15. The reason that's a good idea sometimes is because then you don't lose a lot of the... I find that when the more steps you do, the more your characters become stiff. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
And I see guys that they do little 2-inch drawings, and they do 5-inch drawings, and then they transfer it on, and they do it in pencil, then they do it by ink, and by the time they actually get it done, what they actually had in the pencil little tiny stage was actually more dynamic and more exciting to look at. So I think that the less you actually repeat yourself, the more that the energy is still on the page.
Okay, but see, that is one method, but actually I just do that method you just said. So for some guys, working smaller is better than working bigger.
Your deadlines suck too, don't they?
No way, they're better than yours. And drawing this large for me is harder, because the bigger you get, the more your stuff expands, the bigger your eyes are, the bigger the space between your eyes and your nose. I work better small, because that's just, everything's confined, I can see what I'm doing.
But then you blow them up from there,
and I can do a close-up. Well, sure, but I go in pretty tight. You know, I'll go in there, and I'll give them like a nose, you know, where placement of things is. Placement of the eyes, placement of the mouth, if he's screaming or something. And then I go to a copy machine. You know, you can go to your local Xerox store or copy shop and get something copied there, because a projector can run you, you know, some pretty hefty cash there, can run pretty expensive. That's one method. You can lay it out straight on the page. Plenty of guys go straight to the page, and boom, they're in and out of a page and onto a next one. I mean, this is a funky method. This is just the one I use. I go small, I blow it up, I got a light table, or you can put it up to your window if you can't afford a light table, and just transfer it that way. But don't, like Todd said, don't go real tight in there. Leave something so you can have some room to ink. I mean, for instance, this drawing is pretty loosely sketched out. When I go in and ink this, much the same as you do on your work here, you know, you're going in and tightening up. The kids can see you've roughed in, you know, your stomach muscles and stuff. But I know you're going to go in there and about 1,000 lines in there.
Now we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. That right now a lot of guys are starting to pencil and ink themselves.
Okay.
So some of the young guys now that are maybe watching the video that are trying to aspire. The one thing that I don't think happens is they don't hire you for 2 jobs at once.
No, that's
so
true.
I see.
Specialized.
We're going to go through penciling, inking, coloring, all these things. And if you want to try all of them, I highly recommend it. But the one thing I also tell kids is, on the way to doing all those things, break them up. When you do your pencils, make a copy of that. Then when you ink it, make a copy of that. Then when you do the coloring, make a copy of that. Because if you hand in a penciled, inked, and colored page, the average editor is going to say, I'm assuming that you want to try out for all 3 jobs. Because if you just want to try out as a penciler, you're not showing me your pencils. And so not too many kids are actually professionally talented in 3 fields at once.
That's true.
Most of us usually get in there at one, we're good enough to break in, and then we kind of have to claw our way and get another job or something like that.
So if you can't draw real well, you can come in as an inker and then develop as a penciler. So, I mean, I know what you're saying, so go ahead. Don't stop.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm serious. Just you're right. You should specialize. Todd's right. You go in there and you show them a pencil and ink work. He's going to think you're trying out for inks.
Because I see too many kids that end up being, it's the old jack of all trades, master of none. I say whatever one you like the most, I don't even care if it's the one that you're the best at, but hopefully it is. The one that you're the best at and the one that you like the most, keep doing that one over and over and over, because what's going to end up happening is if you give them the different steps, you give them the pencils, you give them the inks, they can either say, hey, kid's a good penciler, kid sucks on the inks, we're going to have to get somebody else to ink them. Or we go, the kid can't draw worth heck, but he's a pretty good inker. Maybe we can put him on an ink job or something like that. Yeah. You're opening yourself up to more than one job. So what you got to do out there as we go through the steps, again, don't cram all that onto one page. Break them up, and when you send off your samples, then do it. The other thing, too, and they're going to hate us for this one here, they tell you to send it to the submissions artist, to the submission editor. Wrong. That is a flunky. I'm telling you, usually the guy running there is the flunky. The guys that can give you the job is the editor. The editors are the ones that hire you. So what I tell the kids too, you do 3 pages, and when you do 3 pages, you make 50 copies of it, and when you make 50 copies of it, you send it to every single editor at Marvel, DC, Eclipse, Image Comics, and whatever other good comic company you can think of on the week. But send it to everybody, because you only need 1 editor to actually give you that first job before
And then you're cranking. You're rolling.
yanking, cranking.
There you go.
Okay, and the other biggest question that I get is, did you pay for that haircut?
Unfortunately, I did, yeah.
That's brutal, buddy.
Sorry about that.
That's brutal.
It's an old joke.
Okay, now.
Okay, should we go to
Okay,
to layouts?
no,
Layout?
give them. Okay, we'll go to the layouts, and then what we'll do is tighten up a little bit of the pencil to show
Okay.
them like how
Okay, well,
how much tightness that we should go on some of the penciling.
Okay. Well, when it comes to layout, a lot of people struggle with storytelling. There's a lot of great storytellers out there: Jack Kirby, Frank Miller, Gil Kane. You know, when I approach a page, this is how I was shown. You want to use the inverted S, or basically a Z, to get through your page. You want to set up your page so that your eye is falling. This is going to make the difference between when that fan closes your book, whether he liked it a little more than the other one. The kid's not going to close the book and say, you're normally not going to close it and go, wow, I like that book better because Todd McFarlane utilized the inverted S. But it's a design element that's really effective. Oh, the Z.
Or for the Canadians, the Z.
There you go. It's just, you want to fall through the page. And for instance, set this up here. It's a lot of storytelling, and this doesn't mean you can't draw gorgeous babes and muscular guys and evil villains. You can do that big on each page. Let me erase this real quick.
You want the big one?
Like right here. That's okay. Like, okay, here, I'm going to go for a face, all right? Juicy close-up, pull your reader in. Don't do tiny stuff. You know, that's been done a million times. Don't do tiny stuff. Todd used to beat this into me.
The one thing that I tell kids is I call it the 2-inch rule, and I won't tell you whose work taught me the 2-inch rule, but it's either a 2-inch or a 1-inch rule. Is I see too many comic books that I can hold my fingers apart, 1.5 inch, whatever, and I can almost go through almost 80 to 90% of the panels, and I can fit almost every single guy into those 2 inches there. That doesn't bring my eye in there.
Right.
My attitude is the first time you see a guy, either he's a double page spread, he's bigger in life, it's a close-up of his face or something like that, and every time you introduce somebody into it, you should hit the reader over the head. Again, some guys write their stuff, some guys don't. For the most part, the average guy, and you out there aren't going to become a writer, pencil, or inker, I guarantee it. So you're going to be following the lead of a writer out there. So when you're following the lead of a writer, then what you're going to be doing is, he's got control over that. The only thing you've got control over is the visuals. So when you've got control over the visuals, you make those things bang out. Put the pressure on the writer, guys. I'm telling you right now, the writers, this isn't a how to write comic book. This is how to put the pressure on the writers. You draw what you want to draw. You draw it exciting, and I guarantee it, you give them 10 panels, they write in 10 panels. You give them 2 panels, they can write that same story in 2 panels, guys. They just put a little bit more word balloons here and there. So don't feel the pressure so much of the writer. Sometimes new beginners, I find, get in there, and what another problem is, they do 10 panels a page. It's death. Try to combine. If the scene is a guy drives around a corner on a mountain, he goes through the girder or you know, over the cliff, the car explodes, and he jumps out of the car to save himself. The average beginner is going to do that in 6 or 7 panels. I can do that in 1 panel. I'll just forget that I don't have to show him going through the girders. I can just show the action lines going through the girders. I can show the car exploding in mid-flight, and I can show the guy jumping out of the way. And I'll show that he's coming over a canyon road, and I got all of it in 1 panel. And the best thing about doing like 1 panel instead of 8 panels is, instead of that thing being 10 panels that are about this size, like this, I've gotten 1 good panel about this big, and then I can cut into some other action. Or I can do 2 or 3 small ones to build up to the suspense that his tires screech, and then he ends up going over the mountain street or something like that.
Okay, well here, I can show you a little clearly now what I was talking about moving your eye through a page. Because really, you know what, you have to give the proper information, but move the eye clearly through a page. A lot of times you get, you know, if you get things all jumbled up on the page, it stops the reader in the middle of the story. And when you got an action story going, you want to rush right through. You know, you want that action to be felt on the page. And for instance, here we started with the close-up. Start with the close-up. Then here we go to this angled shot behind this guy's shoulder. There's his eyes, and here's this guy hunched down. Now he's hunched down. You don't want his head up here because he doesn't look dramatic. His head's dropped down here. His eyes and his shoulders are down here, and then he's leaping at him. Now I'm going to draw right over this. our eye went like this. So boom, boom, boom. Think of it as an arrows. Arrows. You want to lead your eye here, then there, then there. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to do it, but most of the time you want to do this. Here, we're going to start off with an establishing shot. A lot of editors are going to give that establishing shot. And sometimes, you know what, give that one city scene so they can put in that little word balloon there.
And these right here are leaning buildings because Superman came by.
Forced perspective.
Or Bedrock just walked by.
There you
it's
go.
One of the Youngbloods guys.
You got it. New image characters. Okay, here, we got this going here, and then I'll be done with this. So you got your panel borders. Okay, then we got a down shot of these people.
Let me interrupt. As you can see here, Rob's stuff isn't all that tight. And that's what we're stressing here on the layout part of it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry whether the eyeballs are straight or stuff. What you want to get here is a lot of the dynamics and storytelling. And the actual pretty drawing, that comes at a different stage right now, when you're doing the tight penciling or you're doing the inking or whatever else.
Okay, I'm going to just finish this up right here. Okay, give the big lips. Okay, so we've got this. So our eye's going in like this. And we go over here, because we got a down shot of them walking through the city. We'll put a sidewalk, put a trash can over here so you know they're in the city. Down shots, the camera's up here now, but you've gone in here on your forced perspective, you've come down here. Now your eye's going to flow right through all this stuff because we close in on them, maybe give an up shot so your camera's down here, shooting them up. So you've got that, you're going head, head. So these two head, the placement of them is leading to your last panel, which give a big head shot, nice big shot. You can go in there and do your pretty face. You can, do whatever you want. Boom. You're in the page, you're out of the page, you're flipping, and the action's coming with it. But yeah, don't go in tight when you're trying to figure out your storytelling. Just, use those little stick figures, that jump out of you, or kick, or punch, or, whatever.
Okay, now one of the other things, too, that you can do on your pages that a lot of us are starting to do, guys like Jim Lee and Whilce Portacio and Rob and myself and Eric Larson, is we're starting to get a little more designier with the pages.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And unfortunately, this is a tough game for you guys to have to play here, is that when you hand in your samples, if you hand it to the editors, a lot of them are kind of raised from the old school. They got to see ABCD storytelling, everything's cool, and unfortunately, we're going to show you a couple tricks to designing and stuff, but you might have to curb some of those things until you're actually in, because if you go out and you try to be real designy right off the bat, then sometimes they pick out those designy elements as a flaw in your storytelling. So you don't want to give them too many flaws. What I usually tell them is, when you go in there to get a job, they don't want to hire you. They've got a gun, and the least amount of bullets that they've got, the better chance you got of surviving and coming out of there. So the first time, they're going to say, you can't draw, you got no storytelling, you got no dynamics, you don't know what you're doing. They've got 8 bullets riddled in you, you're a dead man. The next time you come back, hopefully you've corrected one of those. They only shoot you 4 times, not too bad. You don't have to be perfect, because none of us are perfect when we get the job. But if we're only mortally wounded somewhat, and we can just say it was a flesh wound, you usually get a job, you're in there, you can I'm going to tell you what happened to me personally. I did these, as you can see, I do a lot of designy stuff. When I did Infinity, I did this wacko weird stuff, okay? I handed those samples in when I was trying to break in.
Yep.
Nothing. The first time I did what I call the standard 1, 2, 3, 4 panels, I got my first job. That was a year and a half of handing out design stuff. But as soon as I got the job, Steve Engelhardt gave me the first job. I said, Steve, I don't want to do 1, 2, 3, 4 panels. He goes, beauty, you don't have to. And I was able to do it, but I was already in. And then luckily, Roy Thomas also let me do that too. And I was able to do it once I was in. Trying to do it from before you're in kind of rubs them somewhat the wrong way. Now, the reason that we like designs is because I'm a hockey fan. I don't know if you guys know that, but I love hockey. Can't play it because I was born in California. But now look at this shirt here. Now this could have been a dull shirt. There's a lot of sports shirts out there. But here's a shirt here. It's got a couple of little 1990s type stuff on it. Kind of looks cool. The back right here, it's got a design here, a couple of different textures even on. Actually, if you could even feel this, you would see that
it's all bubbly.
There's all bubbly and there's plastic on it, stuff like that. But this is a wraparound cover. Now, only reason I'm showing this is that this could have been. I could show you 10 other San Jose Sharks memorabilia or T-shirts, and 9 of them put you to sleep. This one,
this could have been shrunk down.
This is cool. This is a cool shirt, and it's designy. And the reason it's designy is 90, it's hip.
Yep.
And so what I'm saying is the new comic books that are selling, whether the editors want to believe it or not, are new, hip, and they're designy.
More of a design slant.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you can take blasé, nothing drawing. And I mean, I did it enough times when I was doing Spider-Man or when I was doing Infinity, but one of the problems that they say is they don't want anatomy sticking out of a panel. I think that's wrong.
Yeah, me
You know
too.
what I mean? That's just a rule that they repeat. Now, again, you might have to keep the anatomy in when you're doing your first samples of getting the job, guys.
Yeah, be conservative until you get your first job.
Yeah.
And once you get your first job,
there's two sets of rules.
Start doing it a little at a time, little at a time.
So listen to rule A to get in, and then listen to rule B when after you're in, and you can take some of this. Now, what I'm saying is, what you can do is, you can take a guy, I don't care what he's doing. As a matter of fact, we'll just make him standing there. Now, see, I'm not going to draw as pretty as some of the stuff that was on Jim and Whilce's video, if you guys bought those, I hope. But we got the guy standing here. Here he is. He's bow-legged. Yeah, I know. You guys saw this in my first video, and it disappoints you. So, but he's sitting here. He's looking pretty cool. And then
give him some detail lines.
Give him some what?
Give him some detail lines to appease him.
Some detail lines.
There you go.
Beauty.
There you go. Good deal.
Beauty.
There you go, kid.
Now he's sitting here. I've got a big panel here. Now I can run this in 10 different ways. If I was going to give him a cape, probably if I wanted to be real funky, I'd give him the cape. Let's say if his cape is up here, I'd give him the cape up in here, and I'd run it up here, and then what I'd do is I'd cut it back behind his head here. I'd now use this as part of the border. And if I use that as part of the border, then I'd maybe do kind of a trailing thing where the cape went over the border here.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I'd cut the border in here, come through the old crotch shot here, come over here, and now, since this is going to be the big one, I could actually even fit one panel in here, two panels here, make these a little smaller, a little moodier, and then build up to the suspense of, dun, 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 we have Rutabaga Man, or there's another cool character called the Spawn. So he's here, you get to see him for the first time. Again, you can't do that on every page, I don't think, but if you do it on a minimal amount. The other thing is, too, you want to put a little bit, again, see the legs that are spread apart?
Yeah.
You want to do a little bit of dynamics or something like that, or, I mean, and those are kind of things, I see too many faces where the guy's sitting there like this, you know, when you could have him, you know, eyes like this, and his mouth wide open.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've got a little 6-month-old girl, and I guarantee you, I can tell when she's going number 1 or number 2. It's her face dynamics. You know, number 1 is an easy one. Number 2, ugh.
Or you can cut this face cool. You can, you know, or, yeah, you know, it's so standard. Just don't do that stuff. But you know that. But be creative. Take different cuts.
Beauty. Now, I've been pencil and inking for, gosh, I don't know how many, 3-4 years now or something like that. So I don't do any tight penciling right now. So why don't you give us like maybe just like an arm or something like that and show them about the amount of rendering that you want to do on this thing.
Okay, and then you want to come in and
for somebody to be able to ink it. Because one of the other things I find, too, is guys, when they pencil, they over-render. You want to keep your stuff simple, black and white, so that an inker can come in there and ink this stuff fairly easy.
All right. Okay, I'm just going
to. And if you do, the other thing, too, I've seen some beautiful black pencil stuff that's beautiful gray. I mean, it's a photograph, but a guy's got to come in there with black ink and's got to make that either black or he's got to make it white.
You know what? Don't do this in your pencils. An inker can't read that.
Yeah, or when they come in there and it gets a little bit darker.
Yeah, just ignore that altogether, because an inker, that's really, he's going to either have to turn that into separated lines to get that graduation or overlap that like that. Don't do the gray stuff. This isn't like illustration. We got to work in terms of black and white. Okay. Just gonna draw a little face here.
Now, when I rough out my stuff, again, it doesn't matter. But I mean, I'm inking a lot of my stuff. I use a non-repro blue pencil. Now, people ask me why you use the blue pencil. The reason I use the blue pencil is because, as an inker, being probably one of the lazier guys in the business in some respects, if you use a non-repro blue, you don't ever have to erase the pages.
Yep.
Now, maybe you got an assistant that erases your pages or something like that. I don't know, but it's a pain in the rear, and something that can take like 20 minutes to half an hour to erase each page. And if you got 22 pages and you got a deadline, I mean, it can take you a day to erase those pages. So I just do it in non-repro blue, and I never have to erase my pages when I'm done inking them.
All right, I've almost got it. I'm just gonna put his chest in here. A little bust shot here of Shaft from Youngblood. And
a Youngblood. I heard that's doing swimmingly.
Oh yeah, doing real well. So, okay, I'm gonna do this. Give the arm down in here. You know, just usually shape everything out. You know, when you're little, you go, I don't need to shape those things out. I can go straight. You know, just like my favorite artist. use the shapes. We all started that way too. You become more comfortable with them, and in time, you'll be able to fidget with them, and they'll come out looking like that arm that Todd drew or Jim drew or what have you. Okay, all right, Todd, I'm almost done. I'm giving you his little wristbands here, and he's got his fist, and he's shaking it up at you, and here's this, and here's the ribs, and here's
Now,
this.
if you were going to become a penciler, then you'd want those things to be obviously a little bit tighter.
Tight.
Like here
You can't give this to an inker. It won't look anything like this.
Well, you give it to me.
No, I'll give it to you.
Okay, if you're going to do this chest area right here, though,
Yeah.
then I would say you give them the shadow in here.
Go for it.
Show them there's going to be. Show them that there's going to be. Okay, well, we'll just tighten it up. Well, I'll just tighten a little bit up on a pencil, though, because some of the guys that are just trying to break in as a penciler want to see a little bit of like exactly how tight you're going to want this. You're going to want this here tight enough so that some of the stuff is pretty much delineated, so that the inker isn't going to really have much problem. Chances of them teaming you up with the best inker in the business as a rookie is highly improbable, guys. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure there's no questions to be asked on your artwork. As somebody's been inking for a while, and I think some other inkers that have been around for a while, most guys actually, I think, like to ink on from a little bit looser stuff, and the reason is because they can throw a little bit of their flair on there. But
yeah, you want to go as tight as possible. The more leeway you give the inker, the more leeway he's going to take. I think, basically.
Okay, now I'm not going to. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to ink, let's say, this forearm right here. We can leave the rest of it up in here. Now, one of the things you want to do is, a thick line usually will tell you that there's a little bit of weight, and a lot of thickness on the line comes in curves. Dick Giordano usually puts his heaviest thickness when he gets into a curve. Like, so here's a muscle in here, so he'll get real thick in that muscle right there, and when he's coming up underneath the side, he also gets real thick on the bottom sides of the arms, and the reason is, once you get the thickness on the bottom side of the arm, you get a nice light coming up on top of it right in here. So if I come in here and I build this up with nice black, I mean, it depends on how much mood the scene calls for or whatever else too, and exactly how tight Rob put it in there or something like that.
Okay, well, also, you know what, when you're talking about light source, when you do something and you're going to consider a light source, if your light's coming over here, all your shadows are going to be cast on this side of the body. If it's over here, they're going to be cast on this side. If it's coming from below, they're all going to be cast against the edges of the body. You know, consider your light source. Just, you know, if you don't understand, put a flashlight up against your wrist or put a flashlight against your hand and then see which areas become darker. That's where your light's coming from. And that's basically what Todd's doing right here.
Okay, now we gotta. See, now some of the areas too. Now we didn't bring a brush. We should have disc. But your big areas, just knock them out with a brush. If you got a big area like a cloak that's that big, what we used to do is put an X in there, and then we just go in there and black them out. Now, if I wanted this to be real heavily, I would have used a brush. I didn't bring a brush. I apologize. Don't use a felt tip pen because it fades. But I'd come in here like this, and then I'd also continue that into his wristband in here. And the reason I continued in there because the light source would be the same or something like that.
You want to ink me sometime?
No.
Too busy with your own work?
No, I
Behind on your deadlines.
Why do you think your cable first appearance looks so good? Okay.
Because I drew it real well?
Yep. The other thing that you want to do too is on some of these things too is like if a guy leaves it too wide open, you might want to spot a black behind him or something like that. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to tell you where Reggie Jackson lives or anything, but what you want to do is you're going to put a shadow in here. Let's say if this is where his little tit is over here, that you might want to put. That's okay. We can use that word.
You know we can.
Yeah, Stan's not here anymore. Oh, is he sleeping?
He's still sleeping. He's taking a few
He's snoozing. Okay, so we can put a black up in here to tell you that this arm here is now cutting in front of this body piece right in here. So now, even though, let's say you have his belt up in here or whatever you've got him drawn up in here, I don't know what you're drawing, but we'll finish this up here.
Ribcage, buddy.
I know it's his ribcage, but he's got to have a belt in here. This is his, like he's up and adamant.
Okay.
Okay, here's his belt up in here or something like that. I don't use pencils hardly anymore. But his belt would be in here. I would make that black, and we'd use the brush that looks like a felt tip marker tonight. But we put that up in here, and we put a little bit of a shadow up in here. Did it. Keep the feathering to a little bit of a minimum. because otherwise I find what ends up happening is most guys overwork this stuff.
Yeah.
Now that's kind of hypocritical coming from somebody like me who throws in 1,000 lines, but I overkill my stuff too. You don't want to sit in there and throw in 1,000,000 lines like this because it just gets all washed out. And then plus a lot of guys just do it for the sake of doing it too. I don't think they really know like why they're doing it. They just they never know when to stop the page. Keep it open and a good colorist to come in there and save you. You know, sometimes I look at it, sometimes I just keep doing it because I just want to see what it looks like in black and white without the color.
You kind of keep adding lines and
so now the other thing too, like if he was in this panel here, I might say, okay, if he's behind here, here's a wall. This might be a little bit of him. Here's the wall here, and this would be a shadow back in here.
Which pops him out then.
So now,
That one?
yeah. So now he's coming around the corner. Let's say it was a nighttime scene or whatever, but he's coming out here, and this guy's black. I mean, you know, sometimes you do those ones where the leg is coming out of the shadows, whatever. I mean, there's got to be somewhat of a rhyme or reason. Some guys do some great shadowing on the face and stuff like that. I don't know how to do that, so I stay away from my weaknesses.
Yeah, me too.
The other thing, too, if you're going to do a story, I see a lot of stories, when you show your stuff to editors, don't give them 20 pages. You give them 20 pages, and that's death. Take 20 pages, pull your 3 best pages out there, and pretend that the rest of them are perfect. The more pages you give the guys, the more they're going to say that you could have 18 perfect ones and 2 bad ones, and they're going to go, look at these 2 bad ones. Too bad, we can't hire you. Like I said, they don't want to hire you. You got to go in there with that attitude. So take your 3 best, make it look like, don't let them know the other 17 sucked, and just go, oh yeah, the rest of them look. As a matter of fact, I even say, don't even say nothing, because I see too many kids drop their artwork in front of the editor and go, this isn't my best stuff, but, and the first question is, show me your best stuff.
And unfortunately, listen to what they have to say. They're the ones who can hire you or fire you. So if they have something to tell you, come back the next time. They want you to do a bunch of little shots. You don't like doing little shots, do little shots, get that job, do it well. Once you're in the door, you can begin experimenting. You know, Todd and I, well, actually, Todd came out of the gate experimenting. It takes some of us a little more time. Editor builds up some trust in you, then you can go and run with it. You want to teach him a little about anatomy?
Anatomy?
Yeah, come on, you're the king.
I don't know the anatomy. You know anatomy?
I'm not exactly an expert on this stuff. You know, I'm known to fake it a lot.
You know what?
We should call in some help.
I heard there's some help in the building.
Well, is Jim and Will still around, you think?
I think so. Let's get him in there. And I love that flashy orange jersey of his.
Oh, yeah, these
Come
guys
on in
are
here.
great. Hey, what's up?
Jim and Len.
Big Jim,
And Marley.
how you doing?
How's it going, bud?
Hey, what's up?
Okay, now, I don't know if you heard any of...
Piece of amateur stuff.
I don't know if you heard any of what we were saying, but we should get into some real drawing at this point. We were just going over a lot of the basics.
There we go. Get it all set up for
The
you.
anatomy, why don't you guys give us something on like what you're thinking of in terms of like where the muscle structure is going, how and why, how it fits together. I notice a lot of guys when they put arms together, doesn't look like they're actually connected. You know what I mean? They just kind of look like they took parts and just stuck them together. So see if you can give them something here.
I think everyone uses a different way, but what I find most successful for me that has resulted in the figures looking tight and not put together from different angles is to rough something out like Rob was doing, and try. I think of like the chest as a barrel shape, and the arms as cylinders, and the head as a square cylinder, and the most important shapes to me are the.
Try it.
Well, I'm about to here.
Okay.
All right. Okay. The chest. Okay.
Right.
The chest shape is like this. Okay, this is nothing new. This is George Bridgman's Guide to Life Drawing.
Let me ask you a question. Do you draw the chest first, because then it's easier to attach the head afterwards?
Right. I'll start with the chest and then the pelvis. The two most important, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I got the pelvis.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because then you can connect these two like
right.
a string.
Just put 2 lines right there, and you got your abdomen, and everything else comes out of here.
I'm learning.
Right.
Well, Gil Kane used to do that he would take this and turn it one way, and then take this and turn it the other way, and he used a twine of rope in between, and then he just figured out how to...
Rather than learn every individual muscle and where it starts and where it ends up, I try to think more in terms of the overall shape of each muscle mass group. And they look more like football shapes to me. So just connect them up like that, connect that.
We could use like a live model.
And if this is the the center of mass of the chest, and this is the center of mass of the pelvis. The further apart they are, the more dynamic your figure is going to get. You know, Jack Kirby, I'm not telling you guys anything new.
Sure.
His chest and pelvis are so far apart, that's where he got all his energy and action coming in. So on this side, we have a guy punching or something like that. We got the chest here, the pelvis here. I'm going to do a side shot from the pelvis here. And if you look at where these lines are, it's further apart. I can even put it all the way over here, right? The further you put them apart, the more energy you're going to get. You put this leg back. Everything kind of works contralaterally or something like that. So if I throw this arm out, this leg's going to go back. You're never going to have a guy running with this leg up and this arm out. You can, but you're going to lose some of the energy that you got. So if this leg goes back, boom, this arm. For every action, there's a reaction here, and you know.
Oh, that's great.
Right.
Yeah, that looks like he's hitting the guy.
Right.
He's knocking him silly. Oh yeah, the arm behind there.
Could I
Bam.
strike this?
Yeah, we're gonna.
I already did.
Cool, cool.
All right.
Where's the copy machine?
That's right. Take this. You take it to your blow.
Oh, that's great. No, you know, I always start with the head, and I do all these ziggy
And then-
That's why your anatomy sucks.
That's right. Sorry.
All right, watch it. You got the thigh here, and then all the interlocking parts, like the elbows and the knees, they're like little round softballs. You know, and this is something that you'll find in most art books, but the kids, they don't have the patience or whatever to do it. But if you want to be serious about your work, you got to take the time and treat each shape and learn the shapes. Here's the ankle, here's a little ball there.
Okay, now the one thing too that I tell people too is like on the chest here, the chest line here runs into this line always, and that's an easy way to like connect those two lines. So even if his hand is raised up, if you start here, then you know that here's his bicep and here's his shoulder or something like that. It's an easy way to, as long as this is always kind of connected here, this line, the chest from the bottom of the breast or whatever you want to call it, runs into the bicep line here, and then that makes it easier to attach that right there.
Well, every muscle, I remember Whilce telling me a long time ago when I was first breaking in, every muscle has a point of origin. So it comes out of here and it ends up here.
Yeah.
And that's why they kind of have this sort of elongated football shape.
Sure.
And as long as you know where all the muscles start and end, you know, that's really all you need to know. You can learn the names and stuff, but that won't help you draw any better.
So let's.
I'm gonna have Whilce go in there,
right,
and
cool.
he's gonna really flesh that out.
Finish this up.
'Cause he knows what he's doing.
Go Whilce.
Give it to him. Now let me just say another thing too. Is that Whilce and Jim are probably two of the better guys right now for anatomy and the superhero comic books. You don't have
a lot of PR.
No, I mean that's true, but you don't. Their stuff is pretty, and right now a lot of the people find that real attractive. But if you go back in years, you'll find that Jack Kirby's anatomy was not perfect. As a matter of fact, far from it. His knees were squiggles. But because he was consistent with everything that he did, it worked over and over. And the one thing that you find is anybody who's got any kind of style, even though it's not perfect, Walt Simonson's got a funky style too, his stuff is consistent. So as long as you find a way to do it and it's somewhat believable. Now, you know, I mean, some people, you know, right now, like I said, they seem to like the Whilce and Jim more than, let's say, a style like Mike Magnolia or something that's kind of a little blocky or something like that. But, I mean, who's to say in 5 years? I mean,
It won't go back to that.
Yeah,
and the strength is in your gesture.
Right.
So as long as your gesture's there, actually, you know, you can. I flunked out in anatomy early on, but I was able to I think, pull a lot of stuff off because the
But
gestures.
you do the
were
big jerk panels.
There you go. There you go. Okay, go.
Well, actually, I
Go.
found out that, I really admire Barry Windsor Smith, but early on in Conan, he did some wonky, wacky muscles.
Yeah.
But
There's
he
hope
took
for
those
us.
muscles. He took those muscles, though. But he took those muscles and he made everything round, everything solid. And as long as you make it solid, then it's believable.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you just do lines going, I mean, like what Jim was saying about here, every line goes somewhere. If he had this line going out over here and then this line going down to here, and this line going over here and this line cutting in the air, then you have lines going nowhere, and then everything becomes flat.
Yeah.
If you can make it round, as wacky as it may look or seem to an anatomy professor or anything, if you can make it solid, it's believable.
Oh yeah, no, and
that's
your
the
stuff
whole
is real
thing.
tight. It's always
In the
got
mono
all those-
world, the words of Stanley, draw.
Draw.
Finish this up. Show us, you know,
Okay.
go in and put that detail in those kids.
Basic-
Yeah,
they're
give us a
dying for it.
good image.
Plug.
See, I got the technical part here. See, basically, what we do is we
Let's draw.
You study what I said.
Good Lord.
When he's
We don't get paid for the
That's why I
work.
never let him on the telephone. That's why I never let him on the telephone when we form the studio, because he never gets any
We
work
always
done.
ask for Jim. 'Cause
That's the other thing you got to master. You got to be able to talk and draw at the same time.
It's tough. Gotta get that phone right there.
What's your name?
It's Rub.
There you go. You go. No way I can talk and draw at the same time.
No, but basically, you want to take the muscles.
Let's see what's going on there. All right,
Ah,
beauty.
yeah,
No, this is great.
But you basically take what muscles are there, and like I said in my piece, if you ever saw it, I love taking all the muscles and making them mean something. You know, it's kind of like a puzzle to me. You take the muscles that are there, and you put them all together. Like, here's an elbow. It's got to go in right there, and all these
I see that.
striations or whatever you want to call it.
Think
of
about it
the-
as like rope
the forearm.
or
Right.
a weave or something. As the muscles kind of intertwine with
Look
one
at that
another
muscle.
in complex patterns.
Yeah, and you want everything to, I mean, like, for instance, see that little touch right there?
Yeah.
That's the edge of this. See? This is a whole muscle right there. You want things to go
If we can
somewhere.
clone you,
Guys,
boom.
hey,
One guy could give advice
you know-
and the
you know
other guy
what?
could draw.
We forgot the biggest rule for anything, whether it's drawing, penciling, we forgot it. Wally Wood's famous rule: if in doubt, black it out.
Knock it off.
There it is. Now, this is what I do. I don't have near the talent of doing anatomy that Whilce has here. So once I get down to the leg and I try to put the puzzle together, and the puzzle ain't working, beauty! We put a little smoke screen in there.
You got it.
We put a
Go ahead,
tree
finish it up.
stump over here.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
We put a
Oh,
tree
okay.
over his
Do
ankle.
the fade. Do the
Oh, yeah,
fade.
okay, okay.
You ever
do the
notice why
fade.
most, when Tarzan's standing, he stands in thick grass? The reason he stands in thick grass is because people hate drawing his feet. Not too many people are good at drawing ankles and little toelies.
Just pick up here.
Oh,
in the
well,
Whilce,
Jim. All right, Jim's not talking much. He can't talk and draw either.
Yeah, Jim.
We got him.
Get that bubble gum out. See if you can chew.
No way, he talks and draws. He masters.
Oh, what am I doing? Thanks. It's amazing.
Are you not repeating what you did in your other video, are you?
Like
you gotta give
No,
something
this is
new.
a little better. This is a little better than.
I know you'd
I'm
be hosting.
I'm getting the first
This
class
video
stuff.
costs
Man,
$15.
imagine if we all got together and like formed a company or did books together. Holy
Let's
moly.
collect the image.
Image, yeah, we
There you go.
got a good image so far. This is a good image.
Great little depth. Boom. Put a shadow.
Oh,
there.
shadow, black it out.
Oh, there it is, black.
Just do the fade.
Spotting a black.
Right.
Spike
Okay.
Lee.
Where's your opinion?
Attribute this
Wanna
one
try
to
something
Mike McNewland.
here? Try something here. Oh, Mikey,
Okay.
king of the fade.
Right.
Wait, I'm gonna try and come in here and give that little pretty line. See, Todd hates this, but I always splotch my ink first. Keep going, keep going.
Okay.
You should have brought some ink with you, bud. You would give me a bad time there.
Oh man, I'm trying to do that little pretty Scott line, the Scott Williams wiggle. Where's Scott? You said a kid, right? Couldn't make it. Oh yeah, well.
There
Okay.
you go. Okay, now hold on. Now we've
Boom.
gone to one extreme. Now nobody's talking.
Oh, get out of here.
Okay,
No,
now,
I did the squiggle.
Whilce,
Oh, I was
you're
working.
not drawing. You can talk now, bud.
Talk away.
There you go. Okay, you want to go in the render stream?
Even hair. You can make the hair move around, too.
Oh, look at that. God, Jeffrey.
Jim Lee. God Lee or Jim Lee?
Are you ready to stand?
Don't wake him
We
up.
cover that one over
Don't
here.
wake him
Okay,
up.
I'm
Don't
sorry.
wake him up.
Uh-oh, I'm getting that little line there. Can I ink you guys' books?
Okay,
Oh,
beautiful.
wow, check it
Now,
out.
again, guys,
Oh. He's naked. All right, put some
What, are we
pants on
Sam
the guy.
Keith?
There you
Put some pants on him.
go. There you go.
Oh, this looks hot. Okay, I'm gonna go in here. I'm
let's call him something.
Humor
No,
lines.
no.
Wait, what should we call him? This guy looks great.
Put a little hair. Okay, give him a little.
I'm going in here and wiggling. I'm sitting in. Cool lines. What other kind of lines do you do? Oh, you do all that cross-hatching
Call him
stuff?
the AM man. 'Cause we did this in the morning.
No way, call him
Yeah, we
Mr.
did.
Image. Boom, boom. Okay, I'm gonna
The
do
thing
some
with
Todd
anatomy,
lines.
I think, is to think of the muscle groups and then to put a heavy shadow along one side. And that it's a way, a lot of kids will go in there, striate every muscle and give you every single line, and it looks really kind of grotesque.
That looks hot.
If you can go in there and just give me one side, it suggests the rest of the stuff. It's all there. You don't have to draw every muscle. If you put a shadow on one side, the muscle shows up.
And basically,
Through
I
that
mean,
negative.
if we're really honest with everybody, even though a lot of this isn't quite the detail that you'd like to see, we're just trying to give you some bits and pieces. But time's running out here. We should get on our way. We stole all these ideas from Stanley anyway, so we should go check to see what he thought about it, guys. So sign it there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, boom!
Ooh,
Hey,
fast.
Looks like a DC character.
He's hitting cyan.
That's my new character.
This is great, you guys.
Thanks.